Hello, gentlemen.
Morning.
I referred to Boris earlier as like the human cork, because however we debate this, we do know that in some way, shape or form, he will bounce up to the surface.
Yeah, but at some point a cork will disintegrate in the water and the waves, and I think that's what's happening now. I mean, the lying liar's protesting all the way to his disintegration.
You really think this is the end?
I do, and he's crying out loud. Look how he thought far more Tory MPs would resign their seats, force by-elections to protect him, because Johnson, it's me, me, me. It's always me, me, me. It's all about him. It always has been. We've known him for more than 30 years as a journalist. Then he becomes an MP. Then he becomes Foreign Secretary. Then he becomes Prime Minister. And look, he's won achievement, Brexit.
Yeah.
The country's turned against that.
Andrew, look, I did a very robust interview.
You did? I remember it very
with
well.
Boris Johnson on this programme last year, and asked him some really difficult questions. The first of which was, "Are you honest, Prime Minister?" Is he honest? Is he being honest when he criticises Rishi Sunak? Is he honest when he says that the Conservative Party is not acting like a Conservative Party? You know, he's had extraordinary success, particularly in the December 2019 election.
Yeah, look, he also won. He was London Mayor not once but twice, a city that is not Conservative. No other Tory would have won it, and he won a fantastic general election in 2019. I think it's very sad we've lost a big figure like that from politics. I really do. However, I don't buy the idea that the Prime Minister lent on the Privileges Committee to find him guilty of misleading Parliament. We all know there were parties, and we know he was at some of them. Some of them may not have been the sort of parties that you or I might want to get invited to. Bit of cake, which was in Tupperware, which wasn't. But and I also don't think the Prime Minister meddled with the list, his resignation honours list.
OK, so Nadine Dorries was apparently on that list to be elevated to
Well,
the
there were
House
8
of
other
Lords.
people on that list, but they're taken off.
Yes. So who took... And she's one of the MPs who's resigned, of course, over the weekend. Who took Nadine Dorries' name off the list, do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, and Downing Street say they had nothing to do with it. I don't believe that.
Right.
I just do not believe it, because I've known how it's worked in the past with other individuals. And Downing Street puts in, you know, can push people and pull people back.
Why would they have done that, though? Why would they have taken, for example, her off the list?
Well, they took 4 MPs off because they didn't want 4 by-elections. They've ended up with 3 as it is, because Nigel Adams up in Selby and Nadine Dorries in Mid-Bedfordshire chucked their toys out the pram and said, right...
So you're saying it was purely political, it wasn't actually specifically against her?
You get there's a House of Lords vetting system, but the Prime Minister can overturn the recommendations. Boris Johnson did that with a Tory donor, Lord Cruddas, I think it was.
But isn't it different?
Said shouldn't get a peerage, but he got one.
Isn't it different when it's a resignation honours list, because it is the gift of the outgoing Prime Minister? They are indulged often. Harold Wilson, going back all the way back to the 1970s, had an outrageous resignation honours list when he put his political secretary in the House of Lords, Martin Faulkner, all those years ago. But Number 10 are insisting it was the House of Lords Appointments Commission, which has 1 Tory peer on, 1 Labour peer, 1 Liberal Democrat peer, and some lay people. They made the decision to take these peerages off because they said you cannot be a peer and an MP at the same time.
Well, you can't, can you?
No. If you're going to be
so they're saying if, however, Nadine had indicated she would be prepared to resign in 6 months' time, she could have her peerage. Now, she's saying she was never told that by Downing Street or by the House. So somewhere in the mix here, it's got that there's been a lack of communication. But that's why the House of Lords Appointments Commission said no, because you can't be a peer and an MP elected at the same time.
So in your view, it was the House of Lords Committee which said no.
Well, it's
but
a very
in your
powerful
view,
committee.
Kevin, it was Downing Street.
Downing Street. And what Sunak's deniability will be, it wasn't me, he'll have got other people to do his dirty work. It happens all the time. They'll be going through...
So you're saying Lord Bew did what the Prime Minister's bidding?
To some extent, yes, because if Downing...
A very distinguished Northern Ireland professor.
If Downing Street's signal, the way these back channels work, they want people on and they're happy, then you're more likely to get it.
OK.
So it's going to be happening with Liz Truss now, at her list.
The system makes it deniable for Downing Street. Coming back to the Privileges Committee and what we may see tomorrow when this report comes out, how bad do we think it's going to be for Boris Johnson? Because it must be pretty bad if he jumped.
It was going to probably recommend that he was suspended from the Commons for an unprecedented not unprecedented, but 20 days, which would have triggered almost
So
certainly
he's seen this report, or at least an advanced summary of the report. What do you think allows him to say to the world, there's no evidence here, they haven't got any proof that I lied?
Look, he's doing a baby Trump temper tantrum. That's what he's doing. He's just going to shout kangaroo court, I'm fitted up, Labour chair, overlooking a Tory majority on the committee. Might even do Sue Gray. He's going to join the Labour Party now. That report is in many ways irrelevant. That's what he'll do. He'll just ignore the facts.
He's got
anything objective he will ignore.
He has got a point, though, about Harriet Harman chairing that committee. It was a mistake to let that woman chair that committee because she's on the record publicly
on Twitter
saying he broke the rules and it was an egregious breach of the rules.
With her mind made up.
She'd made her mind up and she chaired the committee and she's a formidable woman. She's a formidable chairman. She's a lawyer. And so in his mind, and I think he's got a point, she'd stitched it up before it started. They should have picked a chairman who had not made their view
the Labour
clear.
MP Chris Bryant had been chair of the
because he'd said the same thing.
He recused himself.
For the same reason.
On that basis, some people might think that Boris Johnson's got a point. She'd already come to a conclusion before the committee held its hearings.
Chris Bryant had been far more severe in his criticism of Boris Johnson. Because of the political system you have, it'd be very hard to find a Labour MP or any opposition MP, or actually almost any Tory MP who hadn't criticised Boris Johnson over party. The fact is, you could exhume Nelson Mandela, bring him back to life, have him chair that committee, and Boris Johnson would still be complaining, wouldn't he?
She should not have chaired that committee. No. It was a gift for Boris Johnson. This woman, this chairman made her mind up.
The thing is, they were looking in... We know there were parties at Downing Street. Yeah. And we know Boris Johnson told the House...
There weren't.
...that there weren't. I mean, it's pretty cut and dried, isn't it?
But he's still saying he was echoing advice he was given by civil servants.
But he'd been at one of the parties.
He had. But he didn't think it was a party. Even though it was a leading
Several of the parties.
It was quite raucous. I know.
The police did, because they found
over tiny details.
I think nearly 9 in every 10 voters think he broke lockdown rules. The country has made up its mind because the country has looked at the facts and knows the truth. But Boris Johnson, because he's built a career on lying, he's been incredibly successful. He's been found out.
If the Privileges Committee report tomorrow is as damning as you think it's going to be, might that be the moment that the cork disintegrates, as you put it?
Well, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be bleak. But again, he'll make the point that Harman had made her view clear.
We already. The thing is, I'm not sure that the release of the report is going to change anything because we already know what it says because we know he's resigned.
That's why he's quit.
Yeah, exactly. So we kind of know.
But you know, in a funny way, if you were a Boris supporter, there is a sense of relief in Downing Street that he's gone already. Let me tell you why. Because usually a Privileges Committee report is accepted by the Commons. MPs will agree with it, almost certainly unanimously. There would have been a vote in the Commons on whether to suspend Boris Johnson for 20 days from the Commons. That would have split the Tory party down the middle. It would have split the Cabinet. What does Rishi Sunak do? Does he vote to throw his predecessor under a bus? That vote melted away.
Will he stand again as an MP, do you think?
No.
Really?
No.
Everybody has to pretend he's going to come back. Now, he has come back a bit like Freddy Krueger. You think to see the back of him and then he rises again.
Shall we find out what one of those closest to him thinks? This is his sister, Rachel Johnson. She makes a very interesting comment.
The vaccine rollout, levelling up Ukraine. As I say to him myself, apart from getting Brexit and lockdown done, because I also didn't think lockdown was a great idea, you have been a superb and much underrated PM. He's still only 58. There's still a tiger in his tank and clearly lead in his pencil.
There's still lead in his pencil, Andrew.
There's another baby on the way, isn't there?
I know, blimey. I think if he could just keep that lead in his pencil, the world would be a better place.
The idea of Boris Johnson, there's no vacancy before the general election. Rishi Sunak is going to lead the Tories into the election. And there is a sense of relief in some of his inner circle that this is... The Boris psychodrama is over. He's not going to come... Would he be a great leader of the opposition, Boris Johnson?
No.
Terrible.
Well, he won't want to do it. But
it's the worst job in politics.
What's most remarkable is he just wants to burn the house down.